Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, everybody, welcome to a new episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm Jonathan Brickman, and today we have Kathryn Lewis, who is a fiduciary litigation attorney, if I said that correctly, with
You did.
You're excellent, with Kitrosa and Associates. Did I pronounce that right?
Kit Roser.
Kit Roser, emphasis on the kit.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, listen, welcome to our show. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So listen, to keep with the theme of the show, Latte with a Lawyer, tell me, what's your favorite beverage of choice to get the morning started?
Well, it's different every day. I love to go to a little breakfast shop that's near me, and they have flavored cold brew coffee. I don't like sweetener in my coffee, so I like something that's, the flavor is kind of roasted into the beans, so to speak. So I'll get that with a little oat milk, or sometimes I'll do a hot tea. So nothing fancy, no whipped cream, no sugar.
All right, good for you. And you're in Palm Beach. Where are you located?
So I live in Jupiter, and the office is located in North Palm.
Got it. And are you a native Floridian, or did you move here?
No, I was actually born in Queens, New York, and then my family moved down here when I was 5.
That seems to be a pretty typical story.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing unique there. I try to go back at least once a year.
Got it. Yeah, it's once you get exposed to the warm weather, it's tough to go back to the cold weather. I've done it a few times this winter.
No desire to shovel snow ever in my life.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, excellent. So yeah, I'm just a plain Publix coffee drinker, so nothing special there. Whatever the flavor of the day is. Anyway, so listen, tell me about your work and what exactly you do day to day, so people can understand what you do. Yeah.
So I do fiduciary litigation, which means that I litigate cases either on behalf of or against people who hold fiduciary positions of responsibility. And for anybody that doesn't know, a fiduciary is simply somebody who has been entrusted with the care of another person or another person's finances. So primarily the 3 categories that falls into is going to be guardianships, which are known in some other states as conservatorships. Obviously, those have been in the news a lot lately. Probate. So I would be representing or litigating against personal representatives, which is the fancy Florida term for an executor of an estate. In Florida, we have to do everything differently. Or I'll represent the beneficiary of an estate, or the same with a trust, trustees and beneficiaries of trusts. And what will happen is there will often be litigation within those types of cases when it comes to probate and trust. Either somebody's not distributing the assets the way that they should, or somebody is challenging the will or the trust. The person was incapacitated when they signed it. It was procured via fraud or undue influence. With guardianship, it can be a host of issues. Generally, it is older children fighting over mom and dad. Most guardianships are not litigated. Most of the time, it's a fairly open and shut case. You have an elderly person with dementia. They need somebody to come in and make decisions for them. Usually the family is all on the same page. But when the family is all not on the same page, and when there's money to be had, all of a sudden everybody wants to fight. So That's what I do.
So how often, like as a percentage, how often are these cases litigated that you have issues?
So I would say out of the whole of guardianship cases, not very many of them are litigated, but that's almost exclusively what I do, is deal with the litigated ones.
Got it.
And often what is happening is you have somebody in the elderly person's life who is exploiting them or who wants to exploit them. 9 times out of 10, it is an adult child. It's usually like a failure to launch type situation. The person who's like 50 years old, who's never had a job, who's still living with mom or dad, and all of a sudden their money supply is going to be cut off if somebody has to all of a sudden report to the court what they're doing with the money. So they fight the case, or they try to get control of the case so they can control the assets and use the assets for their own purposes. And I try to stop that. I do not ever represent exploiters. Never, ever, ever.
So you're always on the plaintiff side.
It's not really plaintiff necessarily. So in guardianships, you have petitioners and you have respondents and you have interested persons. So let's say that the exploiter child brings a guardianship petition because they want control of mom's assets. We'll just say it's mom. I might represent another child who is coming in and saying, absolutely not. My older brother is a ne'er-do-well who's only in it for the money. I might represent a professional guardian, somebody who does this for a living. These people are usually, not always, usually licensed clinical social workers, or they might have a master's in social work, and this is what they do. They come in, they deal with elderly people, they manage their finances. So I might be representing somebody who's been appointed, who's tasked with going through the funds to find out, where the exploitation happened.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, I actually was involved with a case myself. My great aunt, my father's mother's sister, was exploited with a nephew, and they didn't have very much money at all. Really, I'm very modest estate, and the nephew was a lawyer and was the executor and embezzled money. And
wow.
And I sort of took it upon myself because I had a very close relationship with my aunt, and we had him disbarred.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was quite an interesting case. So I've experienced that firsthand. So I would imagine it happens more often than we'd like to think.
It's pretty rampant, especially down here in South Florida. You see a lot of it, and we have a lot of very elderly, very wealthy people down here. So
Right.
it's ripe for exploitation.
Yeah, no, I would think so. Is there any case that comes to mind that's like the most memorable case that you worked on?
Oh my goodness, there are so many.
Give me one that's
unfortunately, the most memorable one I have is subject to a confidentiality agreement. I wish I could tell you about it.
Skip that one.
Let's see, the most memorable case. Okay, so I had one actually a couple of years ago. It's actually crossed my desk again because the gentleman has now passed away. But it was an elderly man who was slipping into dementia. And he had 2 adult sons, and the one adult son, not only was the father slipping into dementia, but he had just recently lost his wife, so he was depressed as well. And so the one son thought this would be a nice time to take advantage of him and started shoving contracts in his face. Oh, Dad, we're going to go into business together. And I remember specifically that Dad was in his home office with his financial advisor. He'd had the same financial advisor for like 30 years. And the son walks in and says, Dad, I want to go in this investment with you. We're going to buy this property and we're going to renovate it. And we're going to sell it for much more. Now, of course, now, yeah, absolutely, you can do that. But a couple of years ago when that happened, the market wasn't so hot.
Right.
And I'm going to pay you 15% interest. And the financial advisor is like, no, you're not. You're not going to pay him 15% interest. Okay, no, I'm not. I'm going to bump it up to 30%. And the financial advisor is like, no, this is not anywhere on the plane of existence on which we're all living. Under no circumstances are you going to do this. This is never going to happen. And of course, the father, because he had lost his ability to analyze whether or not something is a good deal or a bad deal. And we're talking about somebody who made a lot of money through investments, who was a very sophisticated individual, of course, just signs these contracts and sends his son checks. He was also legally blind, couldn't really see anything, couldn't read the contract. He's relying on the son to tell him the terms of this. And his account starts going into the red because he's pumping so much money in. And so my client, who was the other son, was very concerned about his father. And we wound up having a trial on the issue of incapacity because the bad son, no, Dad's fine. He's not incapacitated. He wants to be my business partner. And so we went to a trial on that. And it was an interesting trial because a lot of the times, because of the way the courts work, you have a bifurcated trial, which means you might go in for a day and work on your case. And then you might not come back for another 2 weeks, to continue your case. In the middle of this trial, the 4th District Court of Appeal issues a case that had a negative effect on our presentation of the evidence. So we had to scramble in the middle of this case to go hire an expert witness to fill in the gaps of what we needed to fill in according to this new case law that came out. But we prevailed in the end. And not only did we get a professional guardian appointed, which is what we wanted, but we got the exploiter son declared by the court to not even have a right to any paperwork in the guardianship. So he could not come in and interfere and complain about money being spent on lawyers, or, I mean, you know, the court can always knock us down, and they do. But he basically got kicked out of the case. And as far as I know, had no further contact. Oh, there's my dog. Had no further contact with his father.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you, it's interesting. So you went to court and you had a trial and you had an expert witness. I mean, is that typical? How do you prepare for a case? Do you use focus groups? Do you use expert witnesses?
No. Well, so in a guardianship case, what happens is, because guardianship cases always go with incapacity proceedings. You cannot get a guardian until you are adjudicated incapacitated. And so what happens is, if you file a petition to have somebody determined incapacitated, the court appoints an examining committee. And that always consists of one medical doctor, one psychiatrist or psychologist, and then what we call a lay person, but it's somebody who's an expert in their field, and it's usually a licensed clinical social worker. Those people will go out, they will examine the alleged incapacitated person, and then they will produce reports that have their opinions as to whether or not that person is incapacitated and to what degree. The incapacitated person has a right, or the alleged incapacitated person, has a right to challenge this. And they can go out and secure an independent medical examination from anybody of their choosing. If I was petitioning to have somebody determined incapacitated, and the examining committee comes back and says, no, I think this person is fine, and I don't like those results, and I have a good faith basis to believe those results are wrong, then I can go to court and say, I want another committee appointed, or I want an independent person to examine them. So not uncommon to have expert witnesses in a capacity trial, actually. The examining committee members are, they're only out there for a limited period of time. They're dealing with multiple cases. So yeah, not uncommon at all. And you prepare it just like you prepare a regular trial. Depositions, interrogatories, request to produce. So it's just like a regular trial, except you don't have any juries.
Oh, no juries. This is a bench trial.
Yep.
Okay.
This is all non-jury. Guardianship is all non-jury.
Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So
Yeah.
how did you get into this? Why'd you enter this kind of law?
Prior to taking this job, I was a prosecutor for 7 years. And while I was at this,
also in the state of Florida?
Yeah, I was in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
And while I was we call it the state attorney's office, and I went into the white collar crimes unit there and spent 4 years in the white collar crimes unit. And my niche, so to speak, in the white collar crimes unit was prosecuting exploitation cases. So I wound up putting a lot of these people in prison, or putting them on probation, depending of the severity of the case. And through my job there, I happened to meet the managing partner of Kit Roser and Associates, and that developed into an employment opportunity.
Interesting. Why did you become a lawyer in the first place?
This is such a nerdy story. I wanted to be a teacher, and I was in college, and on a whim, I took a constitutional law class. Wound up really, really loving it. And I remember this like it was yesterday. The professor gives us the final exam, and it was a Commerce Clause question. And I'm sitting there, it's an essay question, writing my answer to this. And as I'm writing my answer to this, I'm realizing, God, this is fun. I really like this. And I turned in my final, and I told the professor, I want to meet with you. And I went to him, about a week later. I went to a very small school, so we could just walk into the professor's offices at any time.
Yep.
And I said, I guess this makes me a real nerd, but I really had fun taking that final. And I would love to find a job where like I do this for a living, analyzing these types of problems. And he said, well, then you need to go to law school.
That's
so that's
terrific.
why I went to law school. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's funny. We did a podcast with another woman who's just getting started out. It's similar but different. She was going to be an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
And took a course and then discovered that she wanted to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, there's probably some with you, I mean, being a teacher and being a lawyer, there's probably some, there's some overlap there for sure. Right.
Mm-hmm. There is.
But going from an opera singer to a lawyer is
that's a large gap.
That's a big gap to transcend. Yeah. But anyway, mm-hmm. It's interesting. Yeah. But listen, I always say, the key to life is finding something that you really resonates and you really love, and then you're going to be great at it. So
yeah,
good for you. We can only hope we all get there. I'm hoping for my kids to get there at some point. Were there any great influencers along the way, aside from that constitutional law class that you had? Any people that you really look up to?
Yeah, there were. Well, my parents, obviously, who are, sadly no longer with me, but they always encouraged me to think about things from different perspectives. My parents had their own beliefs about the world and about politics, but they always told me that I had to learn how to analyze both sides of a problem. And in fact, when I was a young teenager, I asked for a particular book for my birthday. It was a book about politics written by somebody on a particular side of the aisle. And when I opened the birthday present, it was a book written by somebody on the opposite side of the aisle. And I was like, what is this? Not what I asked for. And my parents said, you can't know what your beliefs are until you've heard opinions from people who have different beliefs. Okay. And so I guess that was kind of built into me from a young age. When I was in high school, I wound up by a scheduling mishap getting stuck in the JROTC program in my junior year.
Yeah.
And I wound up loving that program. And there was an instructor, a teacher who was a lieutenant colonel. I mean, he was retired, but he was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. And he taught me the building blocks of leadership and what it means to lead by example, mm-hmm. Which is something I try to do to this day. I hope I'm successful at it. And then, of course, I had various professors in college. So, there's no one person, but just people along my life who I think set me on the right path and taught me to be open-minded.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, in the state of Florida, to sort of try to look at both sides can be a bit of a challenge at times, right?
Yeah.
That's I moved from the Northeast too. I came from originally from Boston, and then the DC area, and now I'm down here. And it was a bit of an awakening to arrive here. I'll leave it at that. But
yep.
I think your parents were correct, and you really need to sort of expose yourself to all sides, right? To really sort of land on what you really believe in, for sure.
Yeah, and it's tougher these days because with technology and with algorithms and your Twitter feed and your Facebook news feed, we're all in our own little bubbles, right?
Yes.
Because the technology is just feeding us the opinions that we want to see. And I mean, I'm just as guilty as that as the people that have beliefs that are different than me. I'm not getting articles about what the other side is thinking.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. Well, that could be a business idea right there. I mean, so you got to feed them the other side, right?
There you go.
But no, that is interesting. It's kind of like self-perpetuating. I mean, I think most things are kind of that way anyway, depending on where you start from. It tends to be preordained on some level, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You guys, what do you think about technology in the legal space? There's a ton of legal tech. We're one of them. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion about that? I mean, how do you guys use it? Are you an advocate of it?
We do use it. I am an advocate of making technology work for you and you not working for the technology.
Okay.
Big example of that is email. As the people around me can attest to, I am always complaining about email and how much email I get. We all know that feeling of, there are two types of people in the world. There are the people that cannot stand the little red dot on the email on their phone, and then there are the people that'll have 10,000 unread emails. I unfortunately fall into the first category. I cannot stand the little red dot. So whenever I hear that chime, I have that mental compulsion to go and to answer that email. And it's taken me a very, very long time to try to break that habit. And what I started telling myself and what I started telling the other members of my team is that as lawyers, it's our duty to provide quality, not necessarily efficiency. And I have really gotten into the habit of, when I get a lengthy email from a client, there's nothing wrong with writing them back right away and saying, hey, received, I need a couple of days to analyze this. You can expect to hear back from me at the beginning of next week. So far, I have never had a client come back and say, that's not acceptable. Never,
yeah, that's
ever,
interesting.
ever.
Because, I would say that holds for any business, really. As long as you
Yes.
acknowledge receipt, email was not meant to be like a text where it's immediate. I mean, you've got
Right.
it. It's just another form of communication, but you don't have to respond immediately.
Right.
You just
Right.
don't.
And you want to manage client expectations too. All clients are different. Some are more reasonable than others. Some think they're the only client and don't understand that you are working for other people as well. So it always helps to set those expectations. I mean, obviously, if there's a true emergency, and there are a lot of emergencies in my line of work, you respond to the emergency.
Right.
But you want to make sure, and I do think it benefits the client at the end of the day, because they're getting my best work product. They're not getting what's off of the top of my head. And oftentimes, the client will say, well, I want to have a phone call with you. They don't tell you what it's about. And then they're asking you legal questions and they expect that you're going to have the answer right away. One thing that people often don't understand is, just because we went to law school doesn't mean we know the answer off the top of our heads.
Right.
We might have to research it. We might have to analyze it. We might have to synthesize what we learn and put together a memo to get them the right answer. And like I said earlier, no client is going to value speed over correctness. It's just not going to happen. And if you have a client who's valuing speed over correctness, you might have to reevaluate what your role is in the process.
Yeah. So what do you think makes a great lawyer? Like, if you had to sum it up, what makes a great lawyer?
I think what makes a great lawyer is a couple of things: the ability to spot and solve problems, the ability to have a relationship and develop a rapport with a client, and to be able to explain to them what is going on, being able to translate the legalese into common knowledge without talking down to the client. Clients do not like to be talked down to. Right. And I think the ability to be honest with a client. A lot of people think what makes a good lawyer is, well, they win every case. No, absolutely not. Even the greatest lawyers in the world, your Ted Olsons and your David Boys and your Laura Wassers, are going to be able to look at a case and go, this is a loser. You can pay me however many dollars an hour to fight it, but you are going to lose. I think that makes a good lawyer. And any lawyer, and I know a few, any lawyer who will take any case and tell you, oh yeah, I can absolutely win this. It doesn't matter what the facts are. That's what lawyers do. We take unwinnable cases and make them winnable. No.
Well, unless you do things on contingency, which I assume you don't. So you.
Very rarely will I take a case on contingency. Yeah. It has to be something that, it's the right thing to do ethically as well as financially.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Very good. Excellent. I think that's all I have for you. What if people wanted to reach you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is the dreaded email. Because I do check it compulsively. Okay. And they can reach me at Kathryn, it's Kathryn @ Kitroser Law. That's KITROSER law.com. And they can always call the main office line, which is 561-721-0600, and I'll get the message that way.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you very much. This has been very interesting learning about what you do. Kathryn Lewis from Kit Roser. Did I say that right? I hope
you got it right. Okay. Perfect.
Palm Beach, and this has been sponsored by EmotionTrac, which uses AI to pick up emotions that people use for case preparation in mediation or trials. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You bet.